into a world of novel nutrition, new ways of feeding us, and rethinking what food actually is. If we look at what young people think about food, there's been a shift in opinion, and it's been partly accelerated by the pandemic. People are focused on health and wellness. They do want convenience, and they want to have access to food through technology, rideshare apps, and whatever. Alternative proteins are hugely interesting to people, sustainable waste reduction, new flavors and experiences. New is something that's always defined what the agri-food industry can deliver in terms of excitement and inspiration, and I don't think that changes. What's interesting is there's been a shift, and there continues to be a shift to more plant-based diets. We're seeing a huge growth of 10% per year compound annual growth rate to 31.4 billion global vegan market size by 2026, and we're going to see more things happen. Now, this is what I call pure disruption. 3 years ago, I was in California. I was in San Mateo. I went to a supermarket with my great friend who also works in futures design, and I went to the meat aisle, and there it is, Beyond Beef, which is not meat, sat in the middle of the meat aisle. This is where disruption is. It certainly irks the beef, chicken, pork, and fish industry as well. But what we're starting to see is that people are very accepting that this is sort of a new kind of protein. And when you see companies like Nestle investing a huge amount of money in new products like Vrimp, which is like, shrimp protein, but not actually shrimp, things are getting interesting to me. And that increase in protein, and we're always going to want protein in the world, is going to grow by 73% by 2050. And they think that the meat market, and actually the overall protein market, if we refocus it to those words, it's going to be worth $7.3 trillion. So there's going to be a lot of people out there that are starting to say, okay, we need part of this game, and we want to disrupt the incumbent players that are out there, raising animals and producing protein. And this is where it gets super interesting to me. On the left here, we've got a chicken called Ian, and this is one of my favorite stories from modern agriculture. He works for a company called Just. Now, Ian is retired, and Just took some of the cells from Ian to produce the chicken that they supply to consumers. And it's interesting when we start to see this. You don't have to slaughter a chicken to produce a chicken breast. This is an idea that was actually purported by Winston Churchill in 1931. And so it's been around for a very long time. And now that imagination and curiosity has led to this kind of reality. In fact, if you think about it, growing protein in bioreactors from starter cells is going to be quicker. So if you were to raise a cow 2 to 3 years, if you were going to produce the same amount of protein as you would do from that cow after 2 to 3 years, it's going to be weeks. So this is where disruption comes. And certainly it's going to be a different scale of what's happening in terms of animal rearing today. But it's going to get super interesting when we start to see this cellular-based protein and cellular-based agriculture as well. But it's not just food for consumption by us as adults, also using this protein production from starter cells to be able to produce mother's milk for babies, which is there's a huge deficit in the mother's milk that's actually out there. So there's some really interesting applications. And as a futurist, and I really encourage you to go out there and scan for these signals. There's lots of things that are related that sort of start to come back to play in the agriculture industry. But I think that we're going to end up in a world where we've got a kind of a Coca-Colaization of protein supply. Now, what does that mean? Well, Coca-Cola doesn't send cans or bottles of its product into places like McDonald's. They just send the syrup. So what we're going to have is we're going to have agricultural producers providing specialist starter cells from like pigs and chicken and fish and whatever, and sending them out maybe to community hubs or factories that are decentralized across North America and beyond. Is kind of interesting. So what if, livestock rearing changes? Maybe there's a specialist market for those $1 million cows that provide the best cells for growing high quality protein. What if there's decentralized cellular protein supply? What if we can provide affordable protein for lower income communities, war zones, and even areas of famine? It gets really interesting when we start to step out of what we need to do in the agriculture industry into some of these more extreme situations.